Fit to Love, episode 67, Turning Trauma into Triumph.
Fit to Love is physical, emotional, and spiritual fitness to achieve the happy life you deserve. From exercise to cooking, relationships, and spirituality, you'll find all the inspiration you need right here with our host, JJ Flizanes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fit to Love, Freedom Friday. Today, we're going to talk about how to turn trauma into triumph. And we have back on the show Dr. Meg Haworth. Private chef to some of the top stars in Hollywood, Dr. Meg Haworth specializes in food allergies, healing diets for specific conditions, and weight loss. She is the author of 5 books in cooking and self-help and teaches regularly at Whole Foods markets. She was the first food allergy chef in a mainstream venue called EatDrinkOrDie.com, in which she cooked up her recipes on camera. Dr. Meg Haworth holds a Ph.D. in transpersonal psychology and continues to offer therapeutic phone sessions worldwide. It was her own personal journey of drowning at a young age, healing over a dozen illnesses nearly 2 decades ago, and most recently being struck by lightning on Venice Beach that led her to where she is today. Welcome, Dr. Meg.
Thank you.
I say that with a heavy sigh of all this trauma. I'm like, oh, I'm so weighed down by the trauma. So let's get started and talk about some of this. I mean, that's just a lot of stuff. And is that it? I mean, what traumas have you been through?
Yeah, it is a lot of stuff. And I just wanted to list them off very quickly so people get an idea of, and I know there's a lot of people out there that go through a lot in their lives and don't know how to turn it around. And I feel like it's a big part of purpose in my life. So yeah, besides the drowning, I was also sexually abused as a child. I was assaulted by a security guard in a department store I worked in when I was 16. I've had over a dozen illnesses, including, and this is, I think, important to mention these because I know a lot of people are suffering from ulcers, irritable bowel, depression. I have post-traumatic stress disorder. I tested positive twice for mixed connective tissue disease. It's an autoimmune disease. It's rare. I had fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, debilitating muscle spasms in my neck and upper back from scoliosis, dozens of ear and throat and sinus infections. And, of course, most recently, only almost 3 weeks ago, I was struck by lightning on Venice Beach. And so I know it sounds like I'm the most unlucky person in the world, but I have to tell you, I don't see my life that way at all. I feel like I'm one of the luckiest people in the world. I honestly feel that way. I'm so grateful for the life that I have and for the steps that I have taken to overcome the various traumas that have been presented in my life.
And these steps that we're going to talk about and outline for everybody so they can write them down and follow and inquire and get some help with them. When did you realize there were 3 steps? So was it something you sort of developed on your own, or was it something that you learned then applied on your own to other things, or it was just sort of, so how did you develop or figure out these 3 steps?
I figured them out just by my own experience and the things that I continued to do each time I was presented with another trauma, another crisis. I would just employ the same things. And so I just noticed that that's what I was doing. And, this is something I could list out for people so that they could understand that they too can do it.
Okay, well, let's list those 3 steps. So take us through what's step number 1.
Okay, step number 1 is take your healing into your own hands. Learn to become your own best advocate and decision maker when it comes to what feels best for your own care. So it's really learning to listen to yourself on the inside. Sometimes that first step of moving out of the norm and out of what everyone is telling you to do is the hardest step to take. But when you do that, you just become so empowered by that decision. So just go with your gut and research. Learn what's out there and what's available. What are the alternatives to whatever it is that you're dealing with?
Take your healing into your own hands. And so what is step 2?
Step 2 is seek help. So find an expert to help you recover from whatever your wounds are. So you can try to do this alone with self-help books. And, I did that for some time. And they're absolutely wonderful, and I completely recommend and suggest that you use those because they do offer inspiration and guidance, and having that is very, very important. But having a guide assist you in your process is absolutely priceless. Finding someone who's experienced in what you're going through is even better. Do the research and find what feels right to you, who feels like a good fit for you. And no, a lot of people don't know this, but if you're going to look for a therapist, for instance, interview your therapist before you sign up. Get on the phone with them for just a few minutes and, do you click with them? Do they seem like they understand you? Do they seem to talk your language? And that's really, really important. So step 2 is seek help.
And actually, that's a great step. I mean, they're both great steps. And seeking help and having that interview, I would definitely second as a really important step, because I've worked with a few different people and had to learn the hard way by staying for several sessions with the first person and realizing that I'm very balanced brain. I've got the structured logic, linear thinking of taking action and doing things and being able to follow through and commit to things. But at the same time, I'm also very emotional. And the person that I had was one of those kinds of therapists that was very right-brained, and she was very all about giving me positive reinforcement and really trying to give me empathy and coddling in a way. And while some of it was nice and some of it was very validating, it was like, okay, already, like I do that myself. So I need a tool. And I actually had gone to her for EMDR, and out of 6 sessions, we did it one time. And it was very frustrating for me. And I didn't realize until I went to the second person who had more of a left brain, right brain balance, who gave me tools immediately. I'm like, oh, okay, great. You and I click a lot better. So definitely great suggestion on interviewing your person and maybe knowing yourself enough to know what it is that you need. When you know what you need from them, do you need that emotional support of the healing, of the empathy, of the positive affirmation? Mm-hmm. Someone on your side. Maybe that's all you need right now. Right. Or are you someone more like me who needed, I can do that, and a little bit of that is good, but really what I need is tools. I need tools to change these patterns and change these physical responses and use the therapies to actually make a biological difference in my body as well as a psychological, emotional. So great suggestion on the interview. So what is the third step?
The third step is make a decision. Decide that you will heal this. Now, this step, I think, is key, because when you make a firm decision and you're not willing to accept any other outcome, this is where, if you're stubborn like I am, this is where your stubbornness comes into play in a good way. Then your ability to overcome your obstacles, that are the ones on your path, it's easier in a way, because there are going to be obstacles. There are always going to be obstacles. But you change the course of your life when you make a choice to change. And I sat in my own victimhood for a long time, not really realizing that I even had the power to do this, to make this choice and say, look, I don't need to wallow in this. I don't need to hurt all the time. I don't need to feel like, I'm just a victim of these circumstances over and over and over again. There is a way out of it. And know this is important too, is that you have to make this decision over and over and over again, because obstacles will arise. And it's your commitment to yourself to see yourself through this process, along with the guides that you choose to help you through the process, that make all the difference in the world.
So when an obstacle would come up for you, how did you find the strength, or what was the belief that you had in order to continue to recommit to yourself?
Well, for instance, right now, this lightning situation, this has been a real obstacle for me, because what it did was, when I was struck, it damaged a disc in my lower back, and it damaged my legs, so I wasn't able to work. And, my doctor said, I don't want you lifting, I don't want you standing for long periods, I don't want you walking for long periods, and that's, as a private chef, that's my job. That's just, like you just described what I do. And so the fact that I couldn't do my work, which I love, was heartbreaking to me. So I thought, okay, now what's the message here? Because this has been a reoccurring theme in my life. When I have a trauma that I deal with, what's the message here? Why am I being asked to sit down, take a break? What do I need to look at? What do I need to evaluate? What needs to happen next? So that's really where I've been the last 3 weeks, is in evaluation and restructuring the way that I do things. Now, I also decided I was doing some work with Western medical doctors, and, they were saying surgery, and I had known from my past, because of a ruptured disc in my neck, I chose not to do surgery at 27 and to go with chiropractic care, and I haven't had any problems with it since. As long as I maintain my regular care and exercise and take care of myself and eat the right foods, I'm fine. So I use a lot of the old methods of problem solving, knowing myself well enough to know what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And then, here I am in this place where I just made a decision that I'm going to heal this back thing. And really within 2 days of making that decision, my back was considerably better. Just from thinking it, just from thinking I'm not going to allow this to take me down.
You have a lot of strength, and I hope that everyone who's listening is inspired by that. I know I am, because, I read your bio and focused on what that must feel like to go through all those things. My first response is compassion, but I know you, and I know how successful you are and how happy you are and how life is good. And so I knew, obviously, that there's a happy ending, but the thought of all those things just on the onset was like, wow, and especially now that you're kind of going through something else again. And it's that power. It's holding your own power and not giving it away and not saying I need something outside force that's greater or different than what I could do myself, like surgery, to come in and change the way I feel. I'm going to do this from the inside out and reclaim my power and say, nope, not doing it. And then, of course, like you said, feeling a lot better.
Yeah, and one thing I have to mention here that's super important to me and is my connection to something bigger than myself, to a higher power, to the divine, to the universe, whatever it is that whoever's listening, whatever it is that you call it, that to me and that faith and that connection has been the most important thing that has helped me through every single thing that I've done in my life. And, instead of looking at, I could have looked at that lightning strike as the universe was smacking me down, smacking me hard because I'm doing something wrong. But then I've become to understand that I don't believe the universe is really that punitive, that it's not about let's punish each person on earth and tell them what they're doing wrong. I think that's very much a human idea. Instead, I looked at it as, wow, this could be a really big, important turning point. This could be almost like an initiation. How all tribal societies have initiations into the next level of what a person is doing in their lives, like a vision quest, for instance, where a teen is sent out into the desert to have a vision quest, where they're out in the desert for several days alone, and they'll have visions and they'll have these experiences, and they'll come back from that a changed person. And that's really how I saw this lightning strike. And because I realized also I had choices about that. Could have made it be a bad thing, but I decided no. My life has been about taking what seems to be really an awful thing and turning it into something of power.
And don't you think that you've also, because you've had practice at having that option, so like you said, you could have decided that this was going to be a really bad thing and that the universe was punishing you or that you're a bad person, and some people that consider that, they choose that because it's almost like the easier choice. Well, not the easier choice, but it's a default mode, and you have had so many that don't you think like strengthened that muscle? You've strengthened that muscle of belief in yourself and your belief to overcome anything, that this time it's easier to believe that?
Absolutely. And I want to stress that with people, that each challenge that you're given in life, and we are all given challenges, it's your choice to choose your way into adopting a new perception about it. And I'm not saying it's an easy choice, because I know if you're suffering with depression, you're suffering with a heartbreak, with something really, really difficult to go through, I'm not suggesting you should ignore those things. I've certainly done a lot of my processing of the emotions over the last few weeks, of, the sadness of not being able to work, of the confusion of what does this mean for my life, what am I doing next, all of that. So I think it's important to recognize those what most people refer to as a negative emotion. I refer to it as a teaching emotion. The sadness, the fear, the shame, the pain, the sorrow, all of those things I think come to us to teach us something about who we really are. and that we need to listen to them, welcome them in. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you believing? And love them and let them go so that they don't continue running the show in our lives. So when people say, I used to get upset when people would say, that your happiness is a choice. Well, yeah, it's a choice, but if you don't have enough power available to you to make that choice, then it's incredibly difficult, if not almost impossible. So that's why I'm saying get help to help you gain that power so that you have that strength and you gain on that strength and you grow it and grow it and grow it until when something comes to you, the time that it takes to resolve the issue is just far less.
Well, I like what you said about the negative emotion being a teaching emotion and to sort of just allow it to be and then process it. You didn't say process, but what I kept hearing was process.
Yep.
Process it. Don't acknowledge it to be truth. Process it and let it go. And I think a lot of people don't process emotion. They numb emotion. They numb emotion through the food. They numb emotion through watching too much television or shopping or,
alcohol,
doing drugs, alcohol, right. And it's real easy to numb that because they don't have tools to process. And so they're like, doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not comfortable with this emotion. I'm not comfortable with how it feels in my body. And all I know is I don't like it. I don't like the way it feels. So I'm going to do something that makes it go away. But, of course, we all know that it doesn't actually go away. It goes away temporarily. You just sort of numb your experience to it. So the fact that you kind of renamed it a teaching emotion I like that. So if that resonated for you, make sure to put that one in your database, in your brain, to not focus so much on the fact that, see, when I hear negative, it doesn't trigger me. And so to me, negative is a neutral term. Yes, it means sad or negative it means something, but it doesn't process in my body or feel bad until I attach it to something else and to a story. But if, take yourself out of the story and consider it a teaching emotion, I think that's very helpful. So we're going to take a break for a minute so we can thank the sponsors of this show.
Is your website working for you? If it's not, and you're frustrated with your brand, website, or current online results, Every Angle Media can help transform your existing business presence and build you a website that works when you're not working. Every Angle Media is a full-service web development firm that specializes in solving problems with open-source solutions. We offer complete design services, custom content management systems, fully integrated e-commerce solutions, cross-platform mobile development, and custom third-party integration, and we're here to help. Visit our site to see our work at everyanglemedia.com or give us a call at 310-798-7228. Again, that's everyanglemedia.com. Do you want to look and feel years younger? Learn more about your hormone health and how to get properly tested. Sign up for the Healthy Hormone Kit at nourishingwellness.com. It features the essential tests you need to tell your doctor to order for you to learn more about your current levels. Plus, you'll receive lots of healthy eating and lifestyle tips to improve your hormone health naturally. Again, that's www.nourishingwellness.com.
Okay, Dr. Meg, so how can one work with long-term effects of trauma?
Well, here's the thing to know about trauma. There will always be things along your path in life that will trigger you into an old pattern or an old memory or even an old illness. Trauma is not something that just goes away even when you work on it. And I think learning to accept that it's a part of your makeup and it's a part of what has made you who you are, it's made you stronger, made you a better person, once you've resolved it in that way, it makes it a lot easier for you to work through the next issue that comes up for you. Just accepting that there are residual effects is one part of it. And it's also really important to be gentle with yourself. I think a lot of us engage in a tremendous amount of self-criticism. If you start monitoring what you're telling yourself in your head, like you're just in front of the mirror in the morning, you're like, my hair looks terrible, and I don't like my nose, and I don't like the way, I don't like the way this feels or that looks or whatever. Those are really superficial things that don't really matter at the end of the day. But what you're saying to yourself is you keep criticizing yourself, or you're telling yourself, oh, that was stupid, I can't believe I did that, and you're beating yourself up inside. Start monitoring your self-talk, because If you think about it, would you ever speak to a best friend or someone you really loved, a small child that you adored? Would you really speak to them that way? So why would you speak to yourself that way? Think about how you would speak to your friend. Like, oh, no, your hair is actually really pretty. It actually looks really good. Or whatever it is, whatever supportive talk you might give, and then begin to shift your self-talk into supportive talk. Because being self-supportive is really important. It really is part of self-love, which I know you're in that conversation a lot, JJ.
Absolutely. Well, it's the foundation. It has to start with you. I believe everything how you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself. And again, we've learned from our parents and modeling, and we do things unconsciously, patterns that weren't even ours. And so it's about the unlearning and like you said, checking in and really being honest about how you're talking to yourself, how you're treating yourself. And if you're not treating yourself as well as you would treat a child, then why not? And what can you do? What small steps can you do to start doing that today? Yes, I talk about it in terms of relationships and attracting love from a partner or rekindling love with a partner. But at the end of the day, it's all about how you start with yourself. That's the blueprint that we create that tells others and shows others what's acceptable for us. So if you disrespect yourself, you tell others subconsciously, non-verbally, that it's okay to disrespect me. Exactly. I don't respect me, so why would you respect me?
Right. Exactly. And we're constantly doing that. So as you begin to change your self-talk, just first of all, recognizing that you're doing this, it's a big step, It's like, wow. Another one is to think about your pet. How would you treat your pet? You wouldn't do that. You'd be like, oh, I love you. You're so sweet. You're so awesome. And start saying those things to yourself. And I think a lot of people get really uncomfortable with that at first. They're like, why would I tell myself I'm awesome? It's like, why wouldn't you? We live in such a society where it's not okay to give yourself that love and positive reinforcement. Like for some reason it's, to continue putting yourself down is more revered than to love yourself. And that's, I think, the big thing that has to shift inside of you first, because like you said, everything begins with you.
Yep, and then some of those patterns are just accepted patterns, again, that we learned from parents and grandparents, and we as a society haven't really adopted holistically together that we need to address. Really learning about our emotions and being mindful about our thoughts, and because it wasn't needed. I mean, go back decades and survival was at the, was the top of mind. Our great grandparents didn't talk about how they felt. I mean, that wasn't an issue.
Right.
So depression, these issues are really, they're of the times. They're sort of a high class issue. We're not concerned about our survival. So we're having conversations about what goes on inside of us, and that's important. And now we need tools to figure out how to process what's inside of us. And again, up until recently, until the last 30 to 50 years, nobody was talking about that. But nobody has any tools. So some of these patterns are just that. They're learned behaviors from our parents and grandparents, like emotional manipulation. And my mother didn't take care of herself, so I don't know how to take care of myself. And isn't that selfish? And all those conversations are just learned behaviors, and you can unlearn them, and that's the great news. So before we get into your contact information and how you can help others in this way, I'd love to know what kind of therapies, like if you could list the different kinds of people that you worked with, because in the number 2 step of seeking help, what if someone says, well, I don't even know where to start? So do you have sort of like a short list of different, obviously therapists, but okay, so there's a lot of therapists that do lots of therapies. So if you could run through the top ones that you think made the most impact on you.
For me, it was spiritual psychotherapy, because I think that, and that's why I ended up becoming a spiritual psychotherapist, or transpersonal psychology, or also known as holistic psychology, because it was learning that I am a holistic system, that I have a mind, a body, a spirit, I have emotions, I have a personality, and I have all of those things available to me, and learning to balance those things and bring all of those things together in a healthy way was a huge, huge part of my learning. So it also, that changes your physiological makeup as well. It will change your diseases. I mean, meditation, for instance, is a big part of my practice, and helping people with meditation. That helps to calm and relax, and there's just all kinds of great information out there about the positive effects of meditation on the body. Spiritual psychotherapy was good. Acupuncture was helpful. I worked with Oriental medical doctor with herbal support. There's so many different things that I would recommend. If somebody's really hurting, and I imagine if somebody wants to learn about triumphing over their traumas, that they probably are having a lot of mental and emotional issues. So one of the things that I do offer is spiritual psychotherapy sessions over the phone, where I do a combination of mind-body technique that I use that help people to recognize and release those emotions and those belief systems that are stuck in the body and help them release those. I do inner child work. I only do that in person. Also in my phone sessions, let me go back to that for a second, I do a mix of intuitive psychotherapy. Because, we are all sensing a lot of things about people all the time, but I've been trained to go underneath the words that a person is saying and feel what's happening underneath the surface, and to interpret that for them in a way that helps them understand themselves better so that they can release the hold that the belief system or the emotion has had on them.
And so how, if someone's interested in doing some of this work with you, would they contact you?
They can email me at drmeghaworth@aol.com. So it's just drmeghaworth@aol, or they can call me at 626-483-0214.
Excellent. Dr. Meg, thank you so much. You've been an inspiration to me, as I'm sure many others, in all of the triumph that you've had from your traumas, and the fact that you're still going, and that it's an inspiration to see you process so quickly and take your power back so quickly, and how that transforms your body and the experience that you're having through this last jolt, so to speak.
Yeah.
So thank you again for being with us and with sharing your story, and for offering your assistance for anyone out there that feels strongly that they need to take these 3 steps and start applying them to their life. So thank you for being here.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Looking for an engaging and inspiring speaker? Does your group need a good jolt of positive thinking? Look no further than JJ Flizanes. Visit her site to check out her most requested topics and video examples. jjflizanes.com. That's jjflizanes.com.
Break the vicious cycle of emotional eating and take back your power over food with Dr. Lisa Gelper. Visit her site at poweroverfood.com to read her articles, watch her videos, sign up for her monthly email tips, and check out her current classes. The Fit to Love podcast show offers you 6 days a week of helpful content to achieve the happy life you deserve. Movement Mondays and Tasty Tuesdays are weekly videocasts, while Wellness Wednesdays, Thoughtful Thursdays, Freedom Fridays, and Sexy Saturdays are audio-only shows themed every week to address your holistic life and needs. If the show inspired you, we would love for you to share it and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us today. Head on over to fittolove.tv for recaps of every show, resources, and to join the community. That's FIT, the number 2, LOVE.tv. Have a fit and fabulous day.